David Coulthard's Grand Prix season has been one of dreams and nightmares. He's been following in the shadow of world champion his teammate Mika Hakkinen, but at Silverstone scored a win in his home Grand Prix in Britain. Shortly thereafter, narrowly survived this harrowing plane crash. But 2 weeks ago in the streets of Monte Carlo, it was Coulthard again spraying the champagne. Is World Championship point leader Michael Schumacher concentrating on the wrong McLaren adversary?
Sportsnet presents FIA Formula One World Championship Racing from the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and the Grand Prix of Canada Round 8 in the World Championship. A big cheer from the Montreal fans as Jacques Villeneuve went out to begin his first reconnaissance lap as cars are on course and there is a sellout crowd. Let's have a look at what's coming up on our Mercedes-Benz pre-race today. We'll update Ralf Schumacher's recovery from his leg injury at Monte Carlo. We'll have highlights of qualifying that wasn't decided until the final seconds. And we'll visit with Heitz Harold Frentzen on his first trip to Indianapolis. And take a look at some of the treacherous first and final turns here at Canada. Mika Hakkinen on course, the defending world champion. Several spots behind David Coulthard in the starting lineup today. He starts a row behind his teammate. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Joy alongside five-time Le Mans winner Derek Bell. And Michael Schumacher may have a new adversary in this fight for the World Championship because Coulthard's on a great roll.
He really is, but of course his luck's going with him. He hasn't had the problems he had last year and before, and somehow he's just managed to demoralize his teammate just a little by being up front all the time.
Possibility of shock absorber problems in Hakkinen's qualifying effort, though he claimed to have had no trouble. He's just a tick behind Mika, and it's Ferrari McLaren in the first two rows. So should be very interesting, especially given the occasional calamity here at turn number one. Well, for some of the excitement and the drama as we lead up to this start of the Canadian Grand Prix, let's go to the pit lane and join London Sunday Times and F1 Racing Magazine correspondent Peter Windsor.
Thank you very much, Mike. Right now, I'm where everybody in this circuit wants to be, including the drivers, and not only because I'm standing next to Isabel, one of our lovely Air Canada grid girls, but also because this is pole position. This is where Michael Schumacher is going to be starting the Canadian Grand Prix in just over 25 minutes. Michael's out there right now, and the big question at the moment is stickers on the front tyres, worn tyres on the rear, or the other way around. At the moment, it looks as if Bridgestone have got a compound that's maybe a tad too hard for this circuit. So the teams are playing with worn tyres and new tyres. It looks as if it's going to be a one-stop race, but again, Ferrari were very quick on full tanks this morning. So maybe that was a ruse, or maybe they're really going to try and make two stops. We shall see. Back to you.
Well, it is rather different, Derek, to see them mix worn or scuffed and sticker tires on the car at the same time.
Well, the reason for that is, of course, they can't get the front tires to grip so well, so they go out and they seem to set after about 6 laps, so they get them worn and they come in, this is in practice, ready for the race, and put brand new sticker tires on the rear, which slide just a little bit more, helps the front turn in.
As we come to Canada, let's have a look at the championship standings. Michael Schumacher has the lead over David Coulthard by 12. Mika Hakkinen a further 5 points back, 7 more to Barrichello, then Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher.
And in the Constructors' Championship, well, it's all still happening. Ferrari with 68, McLaren with 63, Williams 15, Benetton 14, Jordan 9, and Honda 6.
A look down the front straightaway and this final corner and entrance to the pit lane. As the cars finish their recon laps, let's go back down to the paddock and pit area. Peter Windsor, and the news of these last 2 weeks, chief among the concerns is Ralf Schumacher recovering from that injured leg that we saw in Monte Carlo, Peter.
That's right, Mike. It was a severe cut in the left leg there, caused by a suspension piece coming into the footwell area of the Williams. The car hit the guardrail at just the wrong angle, and Ralf actually didn't feel anything until he got out of the car. He looked down and saw blood on his overalls. He had a lot of stitches there, all executed in the Princess Grace Hospital in Monte Carlo. Then he returned to Germany to recuperate while his brother was on holiday here in the United States. Ralph saying he's okay to race now. we shall see. Also in the news, Ralph's manager, Franz Tost, he's been with Ralph for a long time. He's now been recruited by BMW and will be working under Gerhard Berger, running the operations for BMW in Formula One. Finally, lots of rumours again surrounding Bernie Ecclestone. It looks as if he's going to take control of all the areas that the FIA currently control, the administrative and the technical aspects of Grand Prix racing. We shall see there, but Charlie Whiting, the technical official here, is shortly moving to Biggin Hill, Bernie Ecclestone's home base in England. Back to you.
Thanks, Peter. There's also silly season rumors rather early in the year, but we'll have the rumors per minute for you later in today's telecast as you ride with David Coulthard down the pit lane after one of his recon laps. Now, Michael Schumacher was not the only driver to spend some time in North America this week. David Coulthard visited New York City and one of America's greatest race fans.
The dreaded Michael Schumacher. Now, do you know this guy off the race, off the course?
Yeah, no, we actually work together as two of the directors of the Grand Prix Drivers Association working on safety, but the problem is we keep running into each other on the track, so...
Why is Formula One so expensive? It's just unbelievably expensive, isn't it?
Driver salaries.
Nah.
I've never actually sneezed in the car, but I don't know if I can mention that there's one thing you can do. You can't pass wind in a corner.
Well, there's some insight for you.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm here with David Coulthard. You've just seen him on the David Letterman show. David, bodily functions under control?
Yeah, all working normally.
Great to hear. On the grid relatively early, is the car looking good?
Yeah, it's obviously, going to be a little bit different to what you've been doing most of the weekend because different weather conditions, a bit more fuel on board, that sort of thing. But generally, I think I'm happy that the car's going to come to me.
But Ferrari seemed very quick in the warm-up this morning. Any question marks there from your point of view?
I'm pretty sure that they drained fuel towards the end of the session. I don't see how you gain that sort of time without making a big adjustment to the car. So I think now is when we find out exactly where we all stand.
How nice a car is this to drive in Canada today?
It's not the easiest car I've ever driven around this track, but I've just got to give it a little bit of respect and give a bit of room for the walls and be careful. That's it. It's never going to be easy with these cars on the limit, but you're trying to dance that fine line.
Thank you very much, David. Back to you, Mike.
Well, it was really nice to see David so relaxed there. It's not easy for a driver sitting on the grid waiting for the start of a Grand Prix, being questioned and told to wait for action. So pretty tough for David, and he was relaxed. Great to see that action.
Now both the McLarens are on the grid in their grid positions. There's Norbert Haag, the manager for Mercedes of racing activity, but both Ferraris have returned to the garage for adjustments. Neither one are on the grid at present. The circuit here in Canada, Derek, we've kind of touched on Calamity Corner, turn one, and then the final complex at this circuit. Let's have a look around.
Yes, it's a very enjoyable circuit for the drivers. They really love it. I think they just like the challenge of the walls and everything being so adjacent. You can see the yellow areas there, which are possible overtaking spots. Not easy, but they are there, which is a change. It's 2.75 miles around, 15 turns. Let's go and do a lap with Jacques Villeneuve. We're riding with him now as he just comes round to braking for turn one. Again, they're very tight. And then this corner here, turn two, the car inclined to push out. You can see the push in the steering, the effort he's putting in there. Goes out a little bit wide as he goes in there. It's up to 165 miles an hour as he comes up to turn three. Braking down 75 miles an hour in second gear. Works his way through there, trying not to get out too wide. Now we have this very long corner where there's an incident a couple of years ago. Braking very hard again from a very high speed of 170. Works his way through. Smooth surface there is out there. Bit of opposite lock as he tries to straighten it out as he works his way down to turn six. Very fast section as he comes down here. Whoops, braking down, very sharp right, very sharp left, comes out of there right up against the wall, but in fact he's backed off a little bit because he's actually on his warming up lap, waiting for his qualifying lap to come up as he works his way down to the hairpin. 190 miles an hour they'll be pulling here in sixth gear, brakes very, very hard as he turns in. Obviously here you want to get maximum traction because it leads onto this greatly long straight that goes all the way back down to the pit complex. He works his way up to 200 miles an hour, and Jack is obviously preparing himself this lap. You'll see him just adjust something on his helmet there, which is probably pulling up his seatbelts to get it going. If in fact you're going in the pits, you go straight on here. If not, you turn right and go to the right and left. Watch out for the curbs and the wall. That was a lap with Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, let's go down once again and rejoin Peter down in the pit lane.
Thank you, Mike. I'm with Ron Dennis, celebrating McLaren's 500th Grand Prix. It must be an emotional race for you, Ron.
Interesting. I don't know about emotional. It'd be pretty emotional if we win, but right now we're just concentrating on this one.
Now, the Ferraris looked pretty quick in the warm-up this morning. Does that raise any question marks in your mind?
No, they obviously dropped quite a lot of fuel out their cars. You can see the top speeds, the intermediate speeds go up. So either they're trying to dummy us into an alternative strategy, which of course we won't buy, or they're considering quite a radical race strategy. Either way, I don't think it's, it doesn't worry us at all.
It looks to be incredibly close now between McLaren and Ferrari. How would you perceive the qualities of the two cars at the moment?
Well, strange enough, obviously we analyse these things in great depth, and at the moment they seem to be about equal in qualifying condition, but race condition we seem to have the edge. So remains to be seen if that proves to be the case today, but over the last sort of previous races this season, we race stronger than they race, so it means we can push them all the way. And if we're able to do that, of course, we'll maybe see them make a mistake. We'll have to see. That's assuming they get in the lead.
Thank you very much, Ron. Good luck. And back to you, Mike.
Michael Schumacher and now Rubens Barrichello rolling up into position after a quick lap. Difficult to tell here if they're running those slick tires at the back, rather the sticker tires at the back with the scuffs on the front, as we had discussed earlier. But now just about all of the cars, save Ricardo Zonta, are in position on the grid. We go closer to a start. Earlier this week, Eddie Irvine and Johnny Herbert had a chance to go play with some old and new Jaguars. Welcome back to our Mercedes-Benz pre-race for the Canadian Grand Prix at Montreal. Jacques Villeneuve with well-wishers, photographers, and crew as you look at the Paddock Club over the pits along the front straightaway and the backside of our commentary boxes there with the green roofs. In 2 weeks, it'll be the Grand Prix of France. John Watson will join Derek Bell for our Fox Sports Net coverage, 10 a.m. your local time, Sunday, July 2nd. Let's go to Peter Windsor with the Road 2 starter.
Barrichello, a little distracted here. Appears to be a slight brake problem on the car here, Rubens.
Yeah, we're getting no temperature on the right front wheel, so I think we have to change the discs, and so it's a bit of a rush right now.
Which is a shame because the car's been running beautifully all weekend, right?
Yeah. I hope I don't have a problem, because right now is not the time to have a problem.
Well, you're amazingly calm. What's actually going through your mind right now?
Well, I mean, Ross told me to keep it calm. It's gonna work, so I hope it works, because the car runs beautifully this morning. In actual fact, I would like to say hello to Tony Kanaan. He should be watching us from the hospital. He broke the arm yesterday in the IndyCar, so I hope you're okay.
Thanks very much, Rubens. Back to you.
Well, thanks, Peter. It's a shame he's going to have to find out if that brake works when he comes hurtling down from 180 miles an hour, Derek, to test it out.
Into turn one, of course,
yes.
Which isn't the ideal spot for that.
Well, yesterday's qualifying session, the 1 hour session, they have an hour, but it seems all the action gets compressed in the last 3 or 4 minutes.
It certainly does. It seems to happen a lot like that, but it was classic yesterday right up to those dying seconds of the session.
Well, let's have a look at the highlights of yesterday's qualifying.
Well, the crowds are all there. They were absolutely over the moon about it. Very, very excited indeed about the whole thing. Couldn't wait to get those cars out. They had to wait 20 minutes before Mika Hakkinen came out. Mika hasn't really been there all weekend, and he only ended up 4th quickest. Not very happy with his car, but they did find he had a broken shock absorber when they checked the car out last night, so maybe that was to do with expect greater things today. Jos Verstappen, well, he was running very well in the arrows until he hit the wall. That put him out, and he qualified quite well down. Red flags came out for that, and that did delay things. John Acey, well, he'd been running, in fact, very quickly all weekend in the Prost. He, unfortunately, his engine expired, and that set him back somewhat, and he didn't qualify where he'd like to have done. Johnny Herbert, well, he was doing a very, very good job all weekend, trying to show to everybody that he is worth a place in the Jaguar team next year. He qualified in 10th place, probably not as great as they'd hoped, but he had been in the top 6 most of the time. Ralf Schumacher, back from his injuries, still, he's obviously with stitches in his leg, but nonetheless, he did a super job, best they could hope for in the BMW. Villeneuve, home circuit, what more can you say about this man? He has such incredible talent, really pushes the car all the way, did a great job to finish 6th, and in fact, he had been running well all weekend. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan, he hadn't been going quite so well this season, but the car did work well here, and they were very, very happy with his 5th place. Rubens Barrichello, well, I think Ferrari are happy with it, but Rubens wasn't happy at all. He said he got held up on the last lap by some traffic, which we believe was his teammate. Nonetheless, a great 3rd for Rubens. And now David Coulthard. The whole weekends have been about David versus Michael Schumacher. The last lap, David goes out and he gets pole position by 9,000th of a second. But right behind him, Schumacher on the last lap goes round and he beats it. Can you believe it? What an incredible piece of driving by Schumacher and Coulthard, first and second on the grid. Great stuff. Excitement for Ferrari. Ferrari, in fact, reigns supreme. But look at the enthusiasm from the crowd.
Third pole of the year for Michael Schumacher. Big difference in drivers' pre-race preparation. You saw Jacques Villeneuve, who prefers to stay in the car, not get out of the car. Michael Schumacher went to the garage. The McLaren driver standing around giving interviews. So big difference. Let's. In the days before electronic engine management, Formula One engines had an exhaust leak. It meant a short life for the engine and early exit. Well, Michael Schumacher had problems in Monaco, an exhausting problem, and by your emails, you wanted to know what happened. Here's Peter with more.
Thanks, Mike. Well, yes, Michael Schumacher effectively lost certain victory in the Monte Carlo Grand Prix due to nothing more than a cracked exhaust. How did that happen? Well, the exhaust gases come out of a leak like that at something like 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the reason it caused a problem is that most Formula One cars have a lot of carbon in their suspension now. This is very similar to the push rod on the back of the Ferrari. As you can see, it's made of carbon. And the problem with this sort of piece is not the carbon itself, but the resin. It's not really a problem, but the properties of the resin. Now, they do not last at anything over 300 or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So you see an enormous difference there. You suddenly blow 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and this piece will not last. Michael Schumacher out of the race because of this carbon suspension problem. But look here at the Jordan. The rear suspension there, if we can see it with the wheels on, made of good old titanium. No wonder Jordan did not break any suspension parts in Monte Carlo. Back to you.
Thanks, Peter. Well, the fans are settling in and the drivers getting ready to settle back into their cars. For us to get ready, I hope if you're settled at your computer, drop us a line. We read all your emails sent to Formula1@foxsports.net. Items of general interest will show up on upcoming telecasts. We're drawing close to a start of the Canadian Grand Prix, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Grand Prix of Canada on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at mbusa.com. And by Morgan Stanley Dean Witter Online. Know your source, msdonline.com. Let's go back to Peter Windsor in pit lane.
Thank you, Mike. I'm with Jarno Trulli, just kitting up now to get in the car. Jarno, you could have won Monaco. You should have won Monaco, perhaps. How does the car compare here in Canada?
Well, in Monaco we were much more competitive than in Canada. But we still look competitive here, but I hope to finish this race.
Thank you very much, Jarno, and good luck. Back to you.
Coming up on Fox Sports Net, we return to your 10 a.m. local time air times through July and all of August, and then noon, September in Italy. And then at the Grand Prix of the United States, live 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And because you've besieged us with emails and letters, we will have live qualifying coverage of the U.S. Grand Prix on Saturday, September 23rd. Then Japan and Malaysia in October to finish out the 2000 season. Ralf Schumacher, a bit of a knee pad there. Gerhard Berger of BMW behind him as we draw close to the start of today's race. Derek Bell and I went to Indianapolis Tuesday, where Heinz-Harald Frentzen got to see the Brickyard for the very first time.
Heinz-Harald, we're here with this famous yard of bricks behind us and below us in probably the world's most famous racetrack in the world. What are your first impressions of it?
I'm very impressed. I'm impressed how many people can fit in here and how big this circuit is. It's going to be really enjoyable for us here to race.
You've obviously been around the track and done a few laps, so you've got one up on some of your teammates. But what do you actually feel about the layout of the circuit and sort of car setup and things like that? Have you got any ideas already?
It's going to be a very extreme circuit. We have a very, very long straight, a very long part where we are flat out here, and we have a very sophisticated infield, and there's no really other circuits near to that circuit. Maybe Hockenheim, but Hockenheim is not as sophisticated in the infield. So it's going to be a compromise here to find the right setup. We're going to see as well good overtaking maneuvers here on the main straight out of the toe.
What are you going to be able to tell your teammates about Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
I'm not going to tell them a lot about it.
I didn't think you would. Well, let me tell you, we were doing 150 miles an hour in that Mercedes touring car down the straight, and they're going to be doing something well over 220 when they race there in September. So look out for a very fast race.
Going to be phenomenal when we get to Indianapolis. There's a view of the city of Montreal, the St. Lawrence River, and the course here on the Ile Notre Dame. And this course features what has been termed Calamity Corner, the complex, the final complex before start finish. Last year claimed 4 world champions cars in the Canadian Grand Prix. First was world sports car champion Ricardo Zonta, backsliding it in with the right rear in his BAR. Next, former world champ Damon Hill in the Jordan. Same song, second verse. Michael Schumacher, while leading the race, paced to the wall, knocked himself out of contention, and finally Jacques Villeneuve just drilled it in. Yesterday, Peter Wacht down in Calamity Corner.
After last year's race is that they haven't changed this fantastic corner. What they have done is allow the grass on the inside of the right-hander there to grow for a good 12 months. So it's now bonded. So when a Michael Schumacher or a David Coulthard goes over that today, they won't be spraying marbles onto the track. So hopefully, in theory, nobody's going to do anything. But the problem, of course, is this brick wall here. This is going to define today's race, probably. Partly because you'll see the guys skimming this. If they get within an inch or half an inch, you'll know it's probably a Schumacher or a Coulthard or a Hakkinen. If they hit the wall, it could be any number of other guys. This wall's got a lot of history, of course, and yesterday the FIA were here inspecting it to see what sort of damage had been done already, and a few cars have hit the wall. Of course, this is all presupposing they've got through that first corner after the start.
Corner is what it's all about, Peter, because we've seen so many incidents over the last 2 or 3 years where everybody's so desperate to get in front into that first corner because they feed in through a right-hander, brake very hard for the left, and then more mayhem. Look at everything breaks loose and cars flying everywhere. They had restarts, we've had red flags in the last couple of years, and here we see another shot of an incident happening here as one of the cars flies across the grass, takes out the others. It's really a very, very dangerous corner, and let's hope we don't see any of that today and see a clean start.
Already this morning we saw that in the Ferrari Challenge race. Fifth car off the grid came sliding through that chicane, took out another. And we'll be back with the starting grid for the Grand Prix of Canada and your race next. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Montreal. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. Closing in on the start, as you see, the grid is being cleared. Weather's been variable all weekend. Friday was in the 90s in pure sun. Yesterday started out very cloudy and then got up to sunny in 70s. Today it's only 64 degrees. There is quite an overcast. It'll be a nice cool day for drivers and engines. A little chilly on the fans. A lot of jackets in evidence there in the grandstand in front of us. And there's the hometown favorites, Jacques Villeneuve, Jarno Trulli, Ricardo Zonta, as the formation lap is about to get underway. One yellow flag up toward the front of the grid. From the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Problems on David Coulthard's car as they get set for the formation lap. They had the rear end of the air, Derek. Couldn't find a gear.
Well, he got going, but my goodness, that was very tense because you are not allowed to come from the back and put up your position if you haven't got away on that first start. So last seconds as those guys were putting in an air starter.
Well, let's have a look at our Mercedes-Benz starting grid for the Canadian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher has his 3rd pole of the season and his 5th in the last 10 races.
David Coulthard's very happy to be up there, but he would like to have been on pole, he said at the press conference.
Rubens Barrichello, traffic problems, he said, kept him off the front row, but good run.
Mika Hakkinen hasn't said too much all weekend. He can't be happy with 4th place.
Heinz Harald Frentzen was aiming for the top 6 and made it. He's the pastor of the Jordans.
And Villeneuve, he was very, very happy with his car, and I think it's a great job for him to be that high up on the grid.
Jarno Trulli behind Frentzen this race said he suffered from lack of grip.
Zonta showing just how quick that Honda engine is, being right up behind Jacques Villeneuve.
The Arrows have been quite fast all weekend. Pedro de la Rosa quite pleased with ninth.
And Fisichella and the Benetton team not happy with their lowly position.
Look at Johnny Herbert. He's out-qualified his Jaguar teammate Eddie Irvine by 5 positions.
Ralf Schumacher not totally happy with the Williams performance at this race.
Jos Verstappen had a good run, might have been faster, but for his crash that took away from his last run.
Alexander Wirtz still cannot get up there and beat his teammate Fisichella.
Both Saubers practiced well. There's a look at Salo and Eddie Irvine back there in the 8th row. And then Alesi, whose engine blew up, and Jenson Button, who had fuel pickup problems on his qualifying runs. Pedro Diniz, again, the Saubers practiced well, but had trouble in qualifying. And Genet is up off the back row in his Minardi. Nick Heidfeld has had a tough weekend in the Prost, and Mazzacane blew his engine, had trouble with the spare, and on the last few minutes of qualifying had to jump in Genet's car to get a time within the 107% window so that he could start this race.
The amazing thing is, in fact, that Genet is half a second quicker in warm-up this morning in 8th place than he was in qualifying yesterday.
Yes. Yep, they really found some speed there. Now, just prior to this formation lap, the yellow flag was waving there next to David Coulthard's spot. And you see the mechanics are still working with the car in the air at the back. Now, if he doesn't go and the rest of the field does, he'd have to start this race at the tail of the field. The mechanics jump out of the way, and away he goes.
Yes, he was having a job to get it into gear, and therefore they had it up on the jack to check it was going into gear.
The big question after last year's start, can they get through turn 1 without incident? Live on Fox Sports Net, we are set for the start of the Canadian Grand Prix. Watch the lights top of screen as Heidfeld is the last car to roll into position. They'll all light, and when they go out, we are racing.
Somebody didn't make it.
Barrichello did not get off well. Eddie Irvine stalled on the grid.
Eddie was well back on the grid.
And another miraculous start for Jacques Villeneuve. There he is in 3rd place. That's the 3rd time in the last 4 races that Villeneuve has rocketed away from the grid.
Outstanding start. Oh, look at poor Irvine, poor Jaguars, but what a great start. The crowd here will be going wild. Well, we know they are going wild. And they've now got to get Eddie Irvine out of the way before they come around. They're trying to push him down the pit straight to get him around the end of the pit wall. Not very nice for those marshals. I've never seen them run so fast pushing a stationary car or an immobile car. Great start by Schumacher and, of course, David Coulthard and Villeneuve, but Paul Hakkinen way back. He didn't have a good start at all, possibly brought on by the way Villeneuve came through.
Let's see what happened to Mika Hakkinen. 3rd row on the left of your screen. Barrichello dropping in, rather 2nd row. And look at Jacques right to the outside, diving it into the chicane.
Well, he got around the outside. Of course, that's perfect for the left-hander and then the right-hander afterwards. And, of course, he's on the inside. Here's the start again of Jacques. Just watch this. Hakkinen sort of not very happy in front of him. Barrichello having an appalling start, and I don't know why. I think maybe Mika saw that bit of tar smoke coming off David's car. Jacques understeers across the road in front of Hakkinen, and that couldn't have done much for Hakkinen's confidence. Here we go again, another shot. A wonderful start out, dragging Frenzen as he comes up here. Watch again. He's gone by the Ferrari, and Hakkinen isn't quite sure what to do, so Jacques is alongside him. Great Indy-type stuff that he's used to doing side by side.
Well, going into that corner, Coulthard did lock the wheels as Schumacher cut across in front of him. Also, Pedro de la Rosa made a great start, picked up 2 positions. From 9th, he is up to 7th in the Arrows.
This is the 2 cars that really have dominated most of this weekend. It's a long way to go, I know, but it's certainly the way that it has been all weekend. It's been Schumacher and David Coulthard. David Coulthard mainly.
Big gap opening up, back to third place Villeneuve. And is that De La Rosa? Has he gone past Frentzen? He has,
yeah.
Sixth place for De La Rosa. Here's how it happened.
Here it is happening. Coming into the hairpin, Casino hairpin, down the inside, a super bit of work, and Heinz Harrod couldn't do much about it on the way out either, which often you can when you've been, the other guys put offline a bit, you make the benefit of it coming out.
So an unaccustomed spot for Arrows, but their fortunes have been improving race by race.
Yes, well, this circuit really is a relatively low force down circuit, so of course they can go really fast. Here we go, another shot. This is, whoa, Jenson Button trying to make a move, but not managing to do it. Not surprised, don't be too brave, Jenson. You need those miles, and you need a result.
Yeah, he was fighting with Nick Heidfeld, who would come off the back row up to the 18th position.
Now Jacques doing what he's sort of done before. He's holding them up a little bit. Remember, this Honda engine is something like 25 horsepower more than anything else than they've had before, and it's about 10 kilos, 22 pounds heavier. Sorry, lighter, what am I talking about? So he has a distinct advantage, and that's why this car, I believe, is going so well at this circuit, because they run that low downforce setup.
Again, out close to that wall.
They've got 5 seconds on that second group already. That's a heck of a lot. And Mika Hakkinen will not be happy. He's had this before recently, and he doesn't like it, but he's got to be quicker off that line.
3, 4, 5, 6, Villeneuve, Barrichello, Hakkinen, and Pedro de la Rosa in the Arrows. Then Frentzen, then Ricardo Zonta, Jarno Trulli, and Fisichella is 10th. Peter, what happened to Eddie Irvine?
Well, Mike, it's a little bit hazy at the moment, but it appears as if he had some sort of clutch problem. No surprise, ready to learn that, I guess. They restarted the car in the pit lane, and of course he is out there now. So it looks like a clutch problem for Eddie Irvine.
Looked rather similar to what David Coulthard had as he was on the grid before that. Similar sort of thing, I would say. It's a good time to point out as they're braking from 180 mile an hour down into the Casino hairpin, a bit of overtaking being done there. Is that it's very, very hard, if not the hardest track on brakes that they go to in the world. And in fact, there's something like 55 gear shifts per lap. That is an amazing amount. Very, very hard for these gearboxes and for the brakes. And that's why I think it'll play into the hands of the people that have got their sums right on brake wear, because it's going to be a matter of just how many stops they make. Because if you're going to do a 2-stop strategy, it means that you could run a very much lighter fuel load, therefore less weight to slow down.
Watching 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, Villeneuve's BAR, Barrichello's Ferrari, the McLaren of Hakkinen, and the Arrows of Pedro de la Rosa. The Canadian Grand Prix continues after these messages. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix. In the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal. Pedro de la Rosa hanging right with that group for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th behind Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard. And Coulthard has just set fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 20.6.
One has to remark at this point, of course, that which I did lightly just now, but you can see Jacques Villeneuve in the fast bits, he pulls away, and the power of this Honda engine. And the other guys with Ferrari still with lots of power cannot do much about it. In the corners, he is somewhat slow, and as you come down to the Casino hairpin, you can see just what I mean. They're right up behind him, but they can do nothing about it on the straight.
A Father's Day homecoming for Jacques Villeneuve, and happy Father's Day, everyone. As Schumacher and Coulthard continue to battle, let's ride with David. That's about 9 seconds back to the 3rd place battle.
This is the infamous corner we talked about. The last corner of the lap. We must say that nobody mentioned when we were discussing that corner that the reason they all went off last year was all the dirt was thrown up to such a degree that there was a magic line, and if you went 1 inch out of line, you went into that wall. The moment we hope that nobody's running over the dirt patch, the grass, and bring it onto the track, so it shouldn't create a problem today in that case. But if it starts to get broken up, then we will see some fireworks.
Jacques Villeneuve leading that second pack from third place on back. On this Father's Day, the circuit is named for his father, Formula One great Gilles Villeneuve, who had 6 wins in 67 starts, scored 107 championship points. And Jacques has eclipsed his father's career in the statistical categories and won a world championship.
We also should point out Gilles Villeneuve actually won here in 1978, the first year that the circuit opened, so that's why it's really been named after him for what he did for Canada.
Well, Peter, how about pit strategy for this afternoon?
Well, Mike, I'm down here in the Williams BMW garage, and they're speculating that maybe De La Rosa and Villeneuve are on a 2-stop strategy. We believe most of the cars out there are adopting a 1-stop strategy, but maybe for reasons of looking good in local country or perhaps passing cars, those 2 drivers might be on a 2-stop. We shall see when it gets into that 2-stop window, which is about lap 23.
De La Rosa's teammate, Jos Verstappen, has moved up into the top 10 from 13th position, running in 10th. And it could well be a light fuel load. But the Arrows have been in the top 10 all weekend, Derek, but for difficulties in qualifying, which put De La Rosa 9th on the grid. Let's ride with Jacques.
Well, Jacques' been up there all weekend. He's got a lovely bit of road in front of him, but the other guys wish it was them that was in front of him. We saw, I believe, Michael Schumacher sitting behind him at the British Grand Prix for a long time. We've seen it at other races this year. The car has this wonderful power, but the VAR is yet to find the handling that it requires, and one wonders maybe what Jacques will be doing next year.
And he has been getting the most incredible starts. I think in only one of the last 5 Grand Prix has he failed to pick up positions on the start. World champion Mika Häkkinen's lap times compared to Michael Schumacher's. And they've given Häkkinen a pit board signal indicating fuel mixture.
We don't know what he's going to do, of course, but I guess he knows.
Schumacher and Coulthard. It's been 13 races since a pole sitter won in Formula One. That was Mika last year at Hungary. And Michael seemed a little perturbed by the question when it was asked after he won the pole yesterday. And he said, well, it's nothing to the drivers, but all of you in the press are making such a big deal about it. He says maybe 13 will be a lucky number. We'll see.
Somebody's got to break that record sometime as we ride with Jacques. Whoa, look at the lock he puts on.
That's the fastest bit of opposite lock I've seen.
We were looking at the Jordan brakes this morning earlier, and they have actually on their air intake for the brakes, the air going into the caliper to cool it down, they have a regulation area that they can bring the air in at, so they've actually taken a pipe off it directly onto the discs to cool it down, because this racetrack is certainly a place that's great concern for them, and the brakes are right on the limit.
That is Trulli in 9th. We were watching Trulli in 9th place ahead of Verstappen. And now we're back at the battle for 3rd. This group has now fallen 12.8 seconds off the lead.
Which implies by the time they possibly come in for a first stop, if they're on a 2-stop strategy, they would virtually have a pit stop in hand.
I'm a little surprised, Eric, that Frentzen is not able to keep touch with this group in the Jordan. There he is, top of your screen.
Yes, it is, and in fact, Trulli couldn't do much about the car in front of him either, his Zonta, which is, again is surprising, but of course it's the power of that Honda engine. But it is still a long race, and the guys keep saying to me, the race will come to me, the race will come to me. And that's provided they did all their homework on Friday in setting up the cars.
And it's a common Jordan tactic to start with a completely full load of fuel to give them more options on their strategy later in the race. So that may well be what's keeping Frentzen at distance from De La Rosa, some 2.5 seconds back of the orange and black arrows. Here in the Canadian Grand Prix, Jacques Villeneuve, one finish in the points, second in 96, 2 DNFs and a 10th.
There's Frentzen with Zonta close behind him and Trulli behind him. And Jos Verstappen, who actually has been terribly quick all weekend, but unfortunately had that accident in qualifying, having at that point, here he goes, he's having a look, but no way. They're braking from 200 miles an hour, and they brake in such a short space there is no room to go by. Yet one would think there would be plenty of time and plenty of space, but it's so tight, their braking areas.
Fisichella trying to gain some ground on that group, but failing to, dropping another 3/10 back of Verstappen this last time by. Now it's 14 seconds from Coulthard back to the pack led by Jacques Villeneuve. The Montreal and Canadian press asking lots of questions and getting no answers on Jacques Villeneuve's future, whether he might go to Benetton next year, move to another team, wait to make a move until 2002. It's never too early for speculating, but it's still quite early in the game for answers. Boy, look at them all catch up under braking.
Yeah, well, you see a low downforce car, a stop-go penalty for David. Oh my goodness, that's what he does not need. That is awful. I wonder why that was due for.
I wonder if that's related to what happened. Yes, the incident, Derek, involving Coulthard as they took off for the formation lap was under investigation by the stewards prior to the green flag, or rather, prior to the start of the race, and they have decided to institute a 10-second stop-go.
Yeah, because everybody should be clear of the grid at a certain number of minutes before the start. Today they weren't clear of David because Michael had already gone, half the pack had gone, and it was against the rules. And that, I think, is, you know, sometimes in this most be a sport, I'm surprised they don't allow this sort of thing to happen, to make a race of it now. Michael Schumacher has a 12-second lead. It doesn't seem fair.
Well, and it's not just the 10 seconds, it's the time getting up and down the pit lane at the pit lane speed limit. That is really going to cripple David Coulthard's chances today.
Yeah, with a speed limit of 50 miles an hour as they come down, it is crippling. But you never know, stranger things have happened. Let's ride with Jacques Villeneuve again as he slides that Honda out to the side.
Let's get an update from the McLaren pit. Here's Peter.
Thanks very much, Mike. Well, very confused state here at the moment, but we think DC has been given this stop-go penalty because he should have waited, or rather the team should have waited for the grid to go out fully before they started him to get him into that race. He in fact took up his correct grid position, and it appears as if he's going to get a stop-go penalty for that. Very, very bad luck for David Coulthard.
Well, what can you say? Rules are rules, I guess. We all have to abide by them.
I'll have to go through the rule book, Derek, but the yellow flag was waving at Coulthard's position. Nevertheless, though, they start the formation lap, and that car is supposed to wait until everyone's clear.
It either has to be gone, or else it has to wait till the back of the group.
Okay.
Which he would have had to do if the mechanics hadn't been by the car, and then they'd have come over the wall and started it.
We've completed 13 laps of 69 in the Canadian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher leading as David Coulthard's about to serve his penalty stop. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix, where Michael Schumacher now has an 18-second lead over the BAR Honda of this man at the bottom of your screen, Jacques Villeneuve. David Coulthard has served his 10-second penalty for the car not being ready at the start of the formation lap. Now, this is a penalty stop, so the mechanics are not allowed to work on the car. A long 10 seconds elapses, and Coulthard goes from second place to 10th place as he exits the pit lane.
That really is so tough for David. It's just what he doesn't need. Like Johnny Herbert coming in then in the pits. He's coming in very, very slowly. He's not even bothering to go in front of the crew. He's parked in the middle of the track. I guess he's expired. Jag out, and Johnny was doing remarkably well. Very, very sad day for Jags, because they're not playing well at all.
Now Eddie Irvine is 2 laps back as they had to start his car from the pit lane, and now Herbert, after practicing very, very well and qualifying decently in 11th, is going to the garage.
Of course, poor old David Coulthard's problems have given Mika Hakkinen that extra bit of lift, because now that means he's the one that can go for the points. David is somewhat behind, although it's a long way to go. And actually, David is not that far behind. Oh, look at the move. Good move. Great move.
Mika had the room, thought he had a chance on there on Barrichello, and drew even with him, but had the outside going into the first of that 2-turn complex.
We have seen people go around the outside, but it's not easy at this level. 19 seconds from Schumacher to Hakkinen. Hakkinen, of course, needs to make this move, particularly now David's dropped back. David won't be far behind him. The last thing Mika needs is David catching him up and having a go at Mika, or Mika having to pull over to let David by because he's running quicker. And maybe it's payback time for Melbourne 2 years ago, when Mika Hakkinen was told that he could go by David Coulthard and take victory, and David abided by it and said, one day Mika will pay me back. He hasn't done so yet.
But Michael Schumacher now enjoys a huge lead. It's been handed to him with the penalty to Coulthard. 18 seconds.
The arrows went very wide going to happen. He nearly outbrakes himself, as we say, going into there, and dropped back too much.
Yet he's still holding 2.5 seconds on Frentzen. You'll see the yellow Jordan there, top of your screen. Still well back of this group.
Rubens Barrichello pulling out to try and protect that inside line for Mika Hakkinen, but I don't think Mika's going to do it just that simply and that quickly after that last lap move. He's going to keep harrying you and worrying you, Rubens. Rubens looks in his mirrors, and in turn that might make him drop back just a little bit from Jacques. That's what Jacques Villeneuve needs. He needs Barrichello to be harried and hustled from behind so that he can perhaps get some nice clean laps in and pull away. Can't believe how well that Arrows is going back there.
That's tremendous, just tremendous for them. Now here's another look at the lower left of your screen. There is David's mechanic still working at the rear of the car. They have it up in the air when Schumacher takes off, and now they clear the grid, and that is the infraction that produced the 10-second penalty.
Because they're meant to go off simultaneously, and David didn't, and that's really unfortunate. There's Johnny Herbert.
Short day for Johnny.
Still gets his paycheck, though.
Good thing. Now, look at, they were nose to tail in the center of the chicane, and look at how quickly Jacques Villeneuve pulls away from the rest of that pack under acceleration.
As they said, has been mooted possibly. Jacques is running a lighter load of fuel, therefore he'll be coming for a two-stop strategy. She'll be in maybe with the next 4 or 5 laps he'll come in for fuel. But of course the other cars are getting lower on fuel too, which means they can go a bit quicker through the corners as well. And then we don't know what fuel strategy they're on.
No, 23 laps would be 1/3 distance for the two-stoppers, and that's 5 laps away.
But as I mentioned earlier, they do have this problem with the brakes, and if you can understand the extra weight of a full tank of fuel, which is 100 kilograms, which is 200 pounds of fuel, would make it very, very heavy indeed for the brakes. And if they could reduce that by having a two-stop strategy, they could save a lot of weight, and of course the physics of that don't need to be worked out.
Transmission trouble has put Johnny Herbert's Jaguar out of the race. He is the only retiree thus far, although his teammate Eddie Irvine lost 2 laps when his car would not move off the grid and had to be started from the pit lane. Michael Schumacher with an 18-second lead over the BAR Honda of Jacques Villeneuve, the Ferrari of Barrichello, the McLaren Mercedes of Mika Hakkinen, and the Arrows of Pedro de la Rosa.
One has to point out at this juncture that in fact there will be some pit stops going on. We don't know whether Jacques on that two-stop strategy. Maybe some of the others are behind, and so they're not going to go crazy and risk going out of the race at this point when, due to a pit stop, one might have a quicker pit stop than the other and therefore come out in front. So I think we're going to wait and see after lap 23 just what the form really is. One thing to point out too is when Coulthard came in for his 10-second penalty, you are not allowed to service the vehicle at all. So therefore, although he came in, he couldn't top up refuel and change tyres. All he could do is wait and go.
Great battle also back at 8th place, where Jarno Trulli is trying to hold off Verstappen and Coulthard as they trail Ricardo Zonta. That's from 7th on back.
Rubens Barrichello putting a little bit of extra pressure on Jacques Villeneuve now as his car gets a bit lighter on fuel, right up behind him on the tighter corners back there. He might be looking to have a go at Jacques. Remember, if you run a low downforce car, you cannot stop quite as efficiently. And as David Coulthard said the other day, it's probably about 20 yards is the difference between a high downforce and a low downforce setup as far as braking one another.
Activity in the Arrows pit, as we're going to see pit stops when we come back. 19 laps are completed in the Canadian Grand Prix on Fox Sports Net. Michael Schumacher with a 21-second lead here in Montreal. Tonight at 8 p.m. on Fox Sports Net, a special Father's Day edition of Sunday Night Fights featuring the pro debut of Frida George Foreman, and Hector Macho Camacho Jr. defends his championship ground. Sons and daughters of boxing legends on a special boxing card tonight.
Rubens really looking at the inside of Jacques Villeneuve as they come down into there. David Coulthard you see now there as we ride with David as he comes up behind this group.
Verstappen just ahead, and Trulli out front of him in 7th place. Zonta, the first car in that group. And Zonta is 6th, some 4 seconds behind 5th place Frentzen.
Here we ride with David Coulthard, 9th place. But you can't do much about these other cars. It's quite phenomenal. You just cannot get by, even with that long straight and that speed of the cars. And it's the braking area that does it. There's no room to go by. Look at the way that Arrows pulls away. But David will catch them up in the corners. Schumacher's been pulling away at 1 second a lap. He's 22 seconds ahead after 22 laps. That's pretty good going. Let's just hope the same problems don't befall him that had him at Monaco befall him today. One would say highly unlikely, because usually this sort of stuff doesn't happen twice, but one never knows.
Now you saw the graphic difference between Schumacher and Hakkönen's lap time. See there that Hakkönen is 3rd car in line, while Michael Schumacher's out in clean air. And Peter, we're seeing a few raindrops on the glass.
That's correct, Mike. Yes, it's raining here. People are scurrying for cover a little bit. It's not raining that hard. But interesting to note that this morning, in the warm-up this morning, the untimed practice, Michael Schumacher did a lap on wet tyres. It was perfectly dry, just to scrub in a set of wets, just in case it was wet. That's the sort of attention to detail we see from Michael Schumacher.
Michael now with a 23.4 second lead on Jacques Villeneuve. David Coulthard was 2nd off at the start and was right within striking distance of Schumacher, but Coulthard was penalized for his car not being able to go when the lights went for the formation lap. Here's a look at Schumacher's Canadian career. 3 wins, 4 poles, 3 fastest lap of the race. He's led 216 laps and has finished in the points in every Canadian Grand Prix he's contested except last year.
And even in his first Canadian Grand Prix in '92 in the Benetton, or was it even the Jordan, he finished in 2nd place. That's David Coulthard taken to the grass. Now and what you have to remember here, if it does start to come down with a little bit of rain, that grass is going to get very, very slippery, much more slippery than the track will until the track gets flooded. That's assuming it rains much. I can't believe it will rain that much.
No, it's a high overcast today. It's not really rainy weather.
I can see why it was. He actually was perturbed by the guy in front who locked everything up, and David Addy did a complete 360. Great bit of driving. Whoa, was he close to hitting Verstappen? Verstappen lost it. David got completely caught up in what Verstappen was doing. Braked, obviously over-braked to avoid hitting him, and spun himself. Was not his fault.
And Verstappen will pit. Verstappen being serviced at lap 24.
Well, after that, I'd want to be serviced too.
Here's Barrichello making the charge on Villeneuve. At the inside at the first corner of that complex, side by side. The car jumps as it shifts, and who will run down the end of the straightaway first? Villeneuve.
But Rubens had to back out of it. He got a bit too carried away there, and Jack is not an easy man. He's probably the hardest man out there to overtake, apart from Schumacher, and he wasn't going to give Rubens an inch. And you can bet your life if Rubens... Oh, here we go. He's given him that inch now, and Rubens has gone down the inside. He really did upset Jacques' balance, and Jack's trying to get on the power to get inside him, coming out of the hairpin, but he can't do it, and Barrichello's away. Jacques got a bit more wheel spin. Now let's see what Mika Hakkinen can do. He's got to go with that Ferrari.
So it's now Ferrari 1-2. Schumacher 25 seconds up on Rubens Barrichello. Let's join Peter with Johnny Herbert.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, Johnny, sad to be out of the race so early. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Well, early on, I started getting a few long downshifts, and then it was getting a little bit nervous under braking. And then when I dropped into the claws of Ralph, I knew he could get down to third gear. And obviously Ralph was able to out-drag me, and then the next lap I couldn't get lower than fourth and then fifth. So it was a gearbox problem. But it's frustrating because I had a better weekend in Monaco, and then that was basically destroyed in the race with unreliability problems in the race. And again, we've had another type of unreliability problem. So, you know, we've got to really change things. I think obviously Neil wrestles very well. What we need to do, it's going to take time, but it's going to come, and it's good that we know what needs to be done.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Back to you, Mike.
Johnny Herbert is the first of now 2 cars out of the race. Jos Verstappen came to the pits after that ride through the gravel with David Coulthard, and Verstappen's car has been retired.
One doesn't know, of course, whether he actually damaged the car. In fact, he might well have just had a gear jam up under braking. Maybe something locked up to create that situation. There you go, Barrichello already pulling away, getting a second a lap on Villeneuve.
Meanwhile, Michael all alone out front now by 27 seconds, due in large part to the penalty to Coulthard.
And the two Jordans are getting close to one another, truly pushing very hard on Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He'll be asking, can I go by yet, to Eddie Jordan. Eddie, I'm sure, will be saying, just bide your time. We've got to stop for fuel in the not too distant future. What will Mika Hakkinen do? In my opinion, he's got to try and get by. He can't let that Ferrari get away. But he doesn't seem at this point to be doing much about it. He saw exactly what Barrichello did. He really upset Villeneuve's balance and his concentration.
And these cars, Derek, are running 0.7 of a second to a full second a lap slower than Michael Schumacher. So I agree. If Mika can, he's got to go. And Verstappen, they had pulled his car toward the garage, made some adjustments, and apparently they've unstuck whatever his problem was. He has rejoined the race.
He goes truly down the inside. Great bit of overtaking on his teammate, but there's nowhere they were going to tangle. Truly goes by.
Let's have another look here.
There we go. On the radio picture is Frentzen as they come into the casino hairpin. He gets plenty of room, but Trulli gets it a bit sideways under braking at the end of it, and he goes through. Now he's going to try and pull away. Trulli not going that well in qualifying, but is running terribly well in the race, and actually has had the edge over Heinz-Harald Frentzen most of the races this year already. He's got something like 80 yards on him as they come into turn 1. Now mean, maybe we'll see a great drive from Trulli. He could have done so well, as we heard earlier, he could have won at Monaco. So let's just see how he goes in catching these guys up. But Mika Hakkinen has got to make that move. He's going to have Trulli to contend with very shortly.
Trulli just set his personal fastest lap of the race at 1:21.3. Schumacher lapping just under 1:21. There are the two Jordans. Frentzen out-qualified Trulli at this race. And just now gave up the position. And you see Trulli really shooting away from Heinz Harald. So this battle now becomes third and fourth between Villeneuve and Hakkinen.
David Coulthard seems to drop back behind Jean Alesi and Ralf Schumacher. How's that happened? We didn't see that.
No, back to 11th place.
I guess he did it, of course, when he went on the grass avoiding Verstappen. I apologize.
Lost momentum.
Yeah, he lost momentum, and he lost those two positions. Yeah.
Well, Frentzen is now falling back into the clutches of Ricardo Zonta. As you watch third and fourth. And Barrichello lowers the fastest lap of the race standard as fuel loads dwindle.
Barrichello has been very quick all weekend, and he was most disturbed after qualifying. You can see his expression in the press conference. He just was not happy with the fact that, I believe he said, he didn't say Michael Schumacher, but everybody said it was. Just shut the door a bit on him on his quickest lap as Michael was slowing down. So Barrichello wasn't very happy.
Look at Jarno Trulli. Trulli is making great inroads on Jacques Villeneuve and Mika Hakkinen. Here he comes into frame. Jacques Villeneuve's mechanics look on.
He's lapping 2 or 3 tenths quicker. 3 or 4 tenths quicker than these two in front. Remember, the reason for some of this is that Villeneuve is trying to fend off Hakkinen's advances at the corners when Hakkinen tries to look down the inside. He hasn't got the speed round the corners, and then they get in the straight again. He has to contend with his power, but at the end of the straight has to back off again to look in his mirrors and try and fend off. Here we go on the straight, up to 200 miles an hour.
And we'll look a little further back in the running order, back as far as Coulthard at the tail end of this group that includes Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, and Jean Alesi. Frentzen and Zonta at the front of that train.
I think we're in a situation here with Barrichello getting the quickest lap. Naturally, he's got all to go for and nothing much to lose. He's fractionally quicker than Michael Schumacher. Schumacher is some 26 seconds ahead of Barrichello. That's a long way in racing terms, and you can bet your life Schumacher is controlling his aggression at the moment, trying to keep it very cool.
So Michael Schumacher has a 26-second lead now on his Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello, then Jacques Villeneuve, Mika Hakkinen, and Jarno Trulli. 29 laps are complete here in Montreal. Welcome back to Montreal, where Michael Schumacher's lead is now 26 seconds over Rubens Barrichello. Nightly at 10 and 12, the all-new National Sports Report gives you a complete wrap-up of the day's sports news with internet interaction, scores, highlights, and opinions. Nightly at 10 and 12, only on Fox Sports Net. Fastest lap of the race, trading back and forth between Schumacher and Barrichello as fuel loads go down. And we are probably 4 to 8 laps away from pit stops. No one wants to see that time come up sooner than Mika Hakkinen, who has been trapped here behind Jacques Villeneuve, fighting the understeer off that corner. And Hakkinen unable to do anything with him for the entire 32 laps thus far. Jarno Trulli, though, has caught that group.
Mika having a look. Is he? No, he can't have a go. Let's ride with Jacques again through the last turns. miles an hour as he brakes for turn 1.
25 seconds from Schumacher. Back, he's beginning to lap slower cars. That's Mazzacani's Minardi just ahead. So at 32 laps, Schumacher, who led from the start, had David Coulthard with him until DC had to serve a 10-second penalty. And now there's activity in the Ferrari pit. Not quite halfway, which would be on the 35th circuit. But Michael now with 25 seconds worth of lead, and now being held up by the Minardi, who finally moves aside. So pit stop's imminent. Little movement in the McLaren pit as well, but they are not set up as Ferrari is. Barrichello now has moved out to 10 seconds over the Jacques Villeneuve, Mika Hakkinen, and Jarno Trulli group running 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Ferrari team really are ready in that pit for this stop. Remember, Chief Mechanic Nigel Stepney used to put that fuel filler on. 40 pounds it weighs, that big end of that fuel hose as he puts it in. Here we come for a Jordan stop.
Heinz Harald comes in, and they weren't ready for him. The Jordan crew runs out into the pit lane. They did not expect him. They don't have tires out. Here come the tire carriers.
It was obviously a last-minute stop. I got to come in. There's something wrong as he comes down the road. He was dropping back a lot.
And Schumacher is in. The race leader in the pit lane as they finish up a long stop for Frentzen. Oh, a long, long time getting the right rear on. Set the car down, and he may not be going anywhere.
They're doing some adjustment to the front wing. You've probably got a bit of push too much understeer, so they're giving him a little bit more front wing. Refueling. Good stop, 9.5 seconds. Comes up behind Rubens Barrichello, his teammate, who will be in the next couple of laps.
Sorry, Heinz Harald's not going anywhere. They pushed his Jordan back to the garage. They found a problem on the car when they were trying to refit the right rear tire, and Frentzen has retired from the race. Mika Hakkinen has passed Jacques Villeneuve. Is that? And then Jarno Trulli, yes.
He's working Jacques as well now. Mika needed to do that some little while ago because he is a long way back. Michael Schumacher, which has done his pit stop. This is the pass. Great bit of overtaking, locking up that inside wheel as they go into, I think, to turn 1. Here we go. No, sorry. Great bit of overtaking by Mika. Lovely job. Ooh, that didn't look good. A puff of smoke out the back of the Prost.
Heidfeld makes his stop at lap 34.
Ooh, that's like clouds of smoke, unless that was rubber smoke, and I don't think well, it might have been. To me, there's a lot of smoke for rubber tires.
His teammate Alesi.
Oh, he's a light. It's time for him to get out. Sorry, Mike. Time for Heidfeld to get out. This is exactly what he had the day before yesterday. His car caught a light then too. It didn't actually catch a light. They managed to put the fire out, and he's still in the pit lane. Come on, guys, let's put a fire extinguisher on it. Let's get some speed here going. These guys aren't going to get down there with a fire extinguisher in time. This is really very, very poor. Somebody should be right there. Very, very dangerous and very disorganized. Disarray, I would say. He's about to lose $1 million car.
There's a fire truck not 30 feet from that, but as he is still out in the pit lane, they're a bit reluctant to send him.
Well, the safety car's moving forward, and the car is just quietly burning away in his exhaust pipe. They're very lucky. I think it's just the residual oil in the exhaust pipe where it blew up. It's just burning quite quietly. Nobody seems particularly bothered. Mind you, Heidfeld probably could have put his own fire extinguisher system on, which could have taken care of it. Here he comes. The safety car has got a fire extinguisher, and he's going to give it a squirt. Let's not put it everywhere, boys, because it's... Oh, he's having a good go anyway. But it makes such a mess of that engine compartment.
You saw a bit of Heinz-Harald Frentzen's problems that led to his unexpected pit stop, and now he's out of the race. Peter?
Yes, Mike, it looks as if it was some sort of brake problem on the Jordan. We don't know precisely what sort of brake problem, but as we know, brakes get a very, very hard test here in Montreal.
Jean Alesi set to come in this lap. For Prost, there is Heidfeld walking back after a very, very difficult weekend.
Interesting, not interesting, but I guess it is a little bit interesting the fact that we were talking to these very Jordan mechanics this morning about that very problem. The brakes were marginal, and here we are just over halfway, and they're out of the race. So no wonder they have that extra little pipe trying to cool the brakes down. Hakkinen's done the quickest lap of a 1:19.3. Super time.
Here's Jean Alesi. You see the size of those brake ducts as they removed the left front tire. That's the maximum allowed by the regulations for brake and hub cooling. And there's Nick Heidfeld walking. Oh, they're going to have to pick up Alesi. He's gesturing wildly.
Start the engine again. He stalled it. So they've got to put the air in, pump it up. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Jean Alesi, his only win in his life in Formula One was in this very Grand Prix in 1995 for Ferrari. Here goes Heidfeld's blow up. And Nick thinks, I don't think I'm going out the track. It's a long walk home. Let's park it here. Before he realizes it's a light. But it's exactly what he did 2 days ago. He's had a very miserable time with Prost. He's really under contract to McLaren, was their test driver last year, as well as being the European Formula 3000 driver, winner of the championship. Very talented young man, but sometimes you can go to a poor team like Prost and it really ruins your confidence for the future.
Yeah, so much of the criticism of Heidfeld's season has been landed at the feet of the team and not the driver. 38 laps were working. Rubens Barrichello took over the lead from his teammate Michael Schumacher when Schumacher made what we expect would be his only pit stop.
Great shot into Michael's visor there. Saw him at the work desk, as we call it. But Michael's laps aren't that quick since he's been out. Hakkinen's going quicker, and so is Barrichello.
Yeah, Hakkinen, you see on lap 37, fastest lap at 1:19.0. And he's within 4.5 seconds of Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's on a full load of fuel. Hakkinen should be nearly gone.
But the one thing we must point out is frequently they'll go out on a fresh set of tires to do very quick laps. But the reason for it today is that we know they're running a slightly harder compound. Well, not harder compound, it's they can't get a compound any softer. And this is the problem they're having. They can't get the heat into the tires. It's a non-abrasive surface here, and therefore you're not getting that immediate response. It takes several laps to get those tires to work. Let's ride with Jacques Villeneuve.
He's trying to hold off Jarno Trulli, and we expect within the next 2 laps we'll see Villeneuve in the pit lane. Boy, Derek, he just pounds those curbs, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Really bashes them. You can't knock all the curbs that hard. Some of them you can hit extremely hard. This is the VAR pit. Everybody about to go outside and get ready for a stop. Can't be long now.
Just to give you an idea of the speed differential between Villeneuve and some of the cars he's been running, Mika Hakkinen passed him, 3 laps ago, and has moved 7 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. So 2+ seconds per lap.
And Trulli really catching him up under braking, coming into Casino hairpin.
Well, here's Jordan coming out to service Trulli next time by. Mazzacani has made his pit stop.
Oh, and he comes straight in. He's in this lap, is Trulli. Straight in the pit stop. Person walking around there, better move out the way. Trulli's coming down, 50-mile-an-hour speed limit as he comes down the pit lane. He's cleaning his visor off with the leather palm of his gloves, because you will have a little bit of dampness there and a bit of dirt. It won't be too bad.
8 men on the right side of the car, 10 men on the left side of the car involved in the servicing.
Good stop. Jordan have had a lot of problems with gearboxes this year. One gearbox costs $110,000. Can you imagine that? Think of the cost of that. And they go through one each race, if not 2.
Michael Schumacher being caught up now by Mika Hakkinen. Just about 1.5 seconds separate them. The difference is that One has made his pit stop, the other not. Slow roller down there underneath that spectator bridge. And that might have been a Lacey going and retiring at the same place where he retired from the qualifying session with a blown engine.
It's amazing that McLarens aren't actually setting up for a pit stop yet. They obviously are on a very heavy load, which in my book means that they can come in and probably pick up a little less fuel to run to the end of the race when they do, which means they'll run with a lighter load and can go that bit faster, despite what various of our viewers think.
And we're getting a little more rain on the window here as we saw De La Rosa come in, and I think Mika Salo also making stops here at lap 40. That would be De La Rosa's second pit stop. And he and Salo both exit after routine stops. Marc Genet also stopping. Well, Derek, if this sprinkle turns to a drizzle, I wonder how that will affect things.
Well, we saw how it went in the European Grand Prix at Nürburgring, and how incredibly well Schumacher drove in those conditions, where he actually overtook Hakkinen and reveled in that sort of difficult intermediary stage in the weather. I don't know if you noticed as they braked at the end of the Bake Straight there at Tournemont, I saw the brake dust, that carbon brake dust, absolutely pouring out of those front brakes and rear brakes on Schumacher's and Hakkinen's car.
And that's entirely normal. The purpose of the brakes is to take that speed and use the friction to create some heat and haul those cars down from speed, and the end result is that both the disc and the pads get a bit of wear, and that's what you see.
Must mention something here which I don't think we talked about before, is in fact that Ferrari have a lighter setup of brake pads and calipers which they use for qualifying, which saves them something like 10 pounds on each corner of the car, sends a tremendous amount of weight as Jenson Button comes in.
Button in at lap 41, started the race way back in 18th position. They had fuel pickup problems in qualifying. 10.5 seconds, and here comes McLaren out from the garage. Their 500th Grand Prix, and now they're setting up, presumably, for Mika Hakkinen.
In fact, there's 500 of them. That counts on the car too, doesn't it?
And it does. A larger crew than Jordan. 8 men on the right side of the car. 14 on the left side of the car, and the man in front with the jack.
Makes sports cars look a bit sick when you're allowed to have 4 people working on it at Le Mans.
Nine and a half seconds. Nice stop for Mika.
Comes out behind David Coulthard, who has yet to stop. Oh dear. Jenson let Rubens Barrichello go by.
And now Ferrari is setting up for Barrichello. Ralf Schumacher has made his stop on this lap 42. And Pedro Diniz as well.
Amazing to see those 2 VARs up there in 3rd and 4th place. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, they're finally delivering all that they promised, and the rain is coming down quite a bit heavier now as Barrichello's in the pit lane. And as that said, McLaren comes back out to service David Coulthard. Here's Rubens. Second stops for both Hakkinen and Schumacher. Barrichello's stop considerably quicker at 8.7. Ricardo Zonta in the BAR, and Coulthard is also in. Zonta away as Coulthard rolls to a stop.
Good stop by McLaren, 8.6 seconds. Zonta, you may or may not know, was the world sports car champion a couple of years ago, racing for Mercedes.
Now, and things look like they're getting a bit slick. Now this has become a drizzle. And Michael Schumacher cycles back to the lead with the pit stop by Barrichello. There's a look at Jacques Villeneuve having an off. A little rain-induced lockup, perhaps?
Yeah, he didn't seem he locked up. I think in a way he didn't want to lock up, but he could see there was a way to go through there, that famous last turn. But it cost him dear. Oh dear, it is getting slippery. Look at those two there, having a wild moment. Very difficult to keep on line. Now when it gets like this and gets wet like this, it's a very good idea actually to go offline and ride out wider, because you have a bit more traction, more grip out wide offline.
Here's Villeneuve to pit at lap 44. Now it's not that the track is that wet, but as you run through a race weekend, that's De La Rosa off. As you run through a race weekend, the track accumulates rubber and also a bit of oil. So it's the first raindrops that really make the track quite slippery as the water mixes with whatever oil has been misted onto the circuit from all the cars running on it. So Villeneuve finishes his stop.
He goes out behind Fisichella, who he was in fact in front of.
Yes. So Michael Schumacher has resumed the lead. There's Eddie Irvine coming in along with Verstappen, and we'll be back. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. You can see the rain falling here in Montreal. It has become a wet weather race. Ferrari has been in, Coulthard has been in for McLaren. As you see Irvine there spinning, Jarno Trulli has been in, and there was a mix-up at Ferrari. Let's show you first Michael Schumacher's stop, which was fairly routine. You see all the teams are out getting set to fit rain tires. Now Ferrari had expected Rubens Barrichello to come in one lap later. So Schumacher goes away and they look up and here's Barrichello. They don't have the rain tires out and at the ready. They have to shove a cameraman out of the way. As Rubens comes in there, the tires are off. They had to run back for the rains.
And they're trying to set up, they're adjusting to give him some extra downforce for the wet conditions. Here come the tires.
So back live with you as here's Mika Hakkinen.
Well, Mika Hakkinen, excuse me, Mike, would have lost a lot of time in that.
He moved up to second place, but you're right, Derek, skating around on dry tires when he needed wets will cost him. Fisichella having up to second place now with Hakkinen's pit stop, Barrichello third, and Hakkinen comes out in fourth ahead of Jarno Trulli, Alexander Wurz, Jacques Villeneuve, then Verstappen and Ralf Schumacher. So again, variable conditions, and now you see how very wet it is in certain parts of the circuit down there at the casino hairpin.
Look at them trying to get traction. See, you'll find Schumacher is not running on the perfect line for the dry. He's trying to get that inside line or the outside line, whatever it happens to be, just so that he doesn't slide off. Here's a shot of Fisichella having a pretty wild moment there. Point out at this point that Wurz, his teammate, is yet to come in for his second stop. So he'll have to come in and get his Eddie Irvine, who was way back, can't turn in, so he says, thanks very much, I'm not going in that wall head first, the famous wall. And here he is out on the dirt. And Schumacher goes off, right across the dirt.
Nobody's immune.
He's at...
It's a casino.
Remember, this is not a circuit that's used regularly like a real racetrack. It's a fair thing to say. So the track will be lethal because it's such a smooth surface. There is so little traction. And these guys are going to be the survival of the fittest. You've got to keep off those white lines, off those curbs, as the water does not permeate those at all. And you're going to have to drive offline to try and get a rougher bit of surface. But because it is a sort of a permanent, but like a street circuit, there is no offline which has got an aggravated surface on it, so there is no grip out there. So wherever you go, it's going to be slippery.
Let's get an update on Benetton from Peter.
Hi, Mike. Yes. very good news for the Benetton team here. The stops they made, one-stop strategy, coincided perfectly with the rain, and they're both out on wets, which is why you see Fisichella currently running second and Alex Wirtz in 6th place.
So sometimes luck becomes part of strategy, and indeed a fortunate day for Benetton in that regard. Schumacher leads Barrichello now by 32 seconds. Fisichella is just 2 seconds back of Barrichello. It's 18 seconds further back to Mika Hakkinen, and then 5 back to Jarno Trulli, which puts Trulli and Wirtz 1 minute behind Michael Schumacher. But lap times have climbed now. They were running at about a minute 19, minute 20 seconds, and here in the rain, around the minute 40-second mark, except for Schumacher, who's lapping 4 seconds faster than that.
You're going to see some brilliant driving from these two guys here, Barrichello and Fisichella, both outrageously good in the wet. We've seen some stirring drives by Fisichella, particularly at Spa 2 years ago, when he was right behind Schumacher, did some wonderful racing there. We got it again today. Barrichello is very quick in the rain when he finished second at Monaco 3 years ago for Stuart Ford before it became Jaguar. They're both superb drivers in the wet. And of course we saw Hakkinen driving probably the best driver of his life in my book at the European Grand Prix at Nürburgring about 5-6 weeks ago to keep very close to Michael Schumacher. Look at those conditions. Go down the inside. You can take those liberties. There'll be a lot more overtaking going on now. Schumacher's lapping some 3 seconds a lap slower than Barrichello at this point, but he is 29 seconds ahead, and he's not going to take any chances with that sort of a lead, particularly with his teammate behind, who I'm sure will not be permitted to overtake him if he caught him up with such an important part of the championship to come along. You can see the rain light on the back of the cars, which is obligatory when it's in rainy conditions.
And Mika doing his best to catch up Fisichella, but there's 18 seconds between them from third back to fourth.
And they're doing pretty much identical times. In fact, Fisichella was 0.5 quicker that lap, or 0.5 slower, should I say.
Well, if there was a hard luck award for the day, the early contender would be David Coulthard.
This was Fisichella getting out wide, getting on the marbles, and then sliding out onto the dirt. Look how easy it is to slide in these cars. I mean, all you can do is try and keep that wheel facing forward. Don't put too much lock on, and do not hit the brakes. You have to be so careful with the brakes, easing them on.
Now, he had 18 seconds on Mika Hakkinen, so Fisichella will hold on to third, despite that little bit of incident. Coulthard's day started off after a great warm-up and a relaxed interview with Peter, but here getting set for the formation lap. The mechanics are working past the time deadline. You see all the other mechanics off the grid as Schumacher storms away, so David had to come in and serve a 10-second penalty, and he now finds himself in 9th place after this one.
Oh dear, that was David when he went off with Verstappen. Sorry about that.
So it's been a tough day for Coulthard, who had hoped to widen the 5-point gap over his teammate Mika Hakkinen in the World Championship point standings. So we're at 49 laps complete, 20 to go.
Looks like one of the De La Rosa.
Yeah, De La Rosa has narrowed up the arrows, both at the right front and the right rear.
He has slid into something quite hard. That's a pity, having shown such incredible form earlier in the race.
And he's not going to make it back to the pits for repair as Schumacher storms by.
So when you need the old ABS, then it works really well. Anti-lock brakes. Here we go, we see him getting a little bit sideways. He can't turn into the corner. Runs across the grass. Oh dear, dear, dear. There just wasn't room for two, was there, in the wet? And that just pushes him in the wall.
Oh, there he goes. Yep. Saves it there.
Too late. Damage is done.
Sure is. And there's Eddie Irvine, who has come to grief with a spin.
Well, at least he gets it going again.
Yes.
Nürburgring, he did the same thing and hit the barrier. Oh, losing it again as he puts the power down. He lost it.
Waiting for Eddie to come out of that corner, and he's not going to be there for a while.
Here he goes. Loses it that way, spins it round. A 180, then up nearly to a 360, puts it down again. Has to select the gear. Remember, he has a gear shift. Well, that was the second part of his lose. And of course he's trying to find reverse gear to back out of it. Remember, all the gear shifting is done on paddles on the steering wheel. Very difficult to find that neutral gear when the engine's all hot.
50 of 69 laps complete. Michael Schumacher leads his Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello now by 27 seconds. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net.
Welcome back to a now very wet Canadian Grand Prix from the Benetton garage, where the rain actually has shone on this team. Giancarlo Fisichella again looking very good on this circuit. Lying third, his teammate Alex Wurz sixth. That's because both drivers came in for their single fuel stop. Just as it started to rain, they switched to wets. They're the only two drivers in the race to have made only one stop. Everybody else has had to stop again for wet tires. So looking very, very good again for Benetton in Canada.
Thanks, Peter. You just saw Jos Verstappen's arrows move past Ralf Schumacher. Been a long, long time since both Benettons finished a race in the points, and they are right now running third and sixth. Fisichella third and Alex Wurz in sixth. It's a replay of the Verstappen pass.
Super bit of driving by him, but he outbrakes the Williams into the turn. Mind you, just before that, both Verstappen and the car in front of him have both gone off at another corner and straight across the grass at turn 1 and 2. So therefore they lost that position to the Williams at that point. Now they gained it back. As you can see, there's the Benetton followed by Verstappen, followed by the Williams.
And they're trying to catch Alex Wurz because that's where the last championship point is, and that blue car of Wurz just ahead, running in sixth place.
And David Coulthard's very close behind. In fact, David, if he got his act together, he's not far behind. He's 1 second behind Verstappen. Behind Schumacher, 1 second behind Verstappen, another second behind Wurz. If he was to really get on it, he could probably get up to sixth place and get a point, which is really what he needs today.
But Wurz is going to be quite tenacious. He has not scored a point yet this season.
Look, let's ride with Jacques Villeneuve in the rain. Just show you these conditions. Look at the push. The understeer just cannot get the grip. Now he's coming down. Whoop. You just imagine you're trying to get 790 horsepower. You can hear the wheel spin. So what they do is they actually shift early. They don't go to maximum revs. They short shift, as we call it, try and get it in the meat of the power and just let the tires take you through it. If you use all the revs, you're inclined to get it locking up to spinning the wheels.
Now the length of Villeneuve's pit stop has put him behind David Coulthard, so Jacques now finds himself in 10th place. That's the rain light of Coulthard just ahead of him. They run out of the points in 9th and 10th after running the first part of this race in 2nd and 3rd. Coulthard, remember, served a 10-second penalty stop for his car not being ready in time for the formation lap. And Villeneuve ran third for much of the day until his pit stop.
You just dare not get on those white lines. You dare not get on the curbs. You dare run over the white lines onto the runoff areas because they are so slippery, they're like ice. I don't think any of us as normal drivers can understand what it is like as Schumacher gets the car sliding through there. It is like on ice.
Ferrari trying for their third sweep in Canada. Williams enjoys 3 1-2 finishes. McLaren and Ferrari 2 apiece.
And if Schumacher was to win this race, he would break this awful thing that seems to be hanging around the drivers' necks of 12 races or 13 races without the pole man going to victory. He could have done it in Monaco, but as you know, the exhaust cracked and burnt the suspension, which meant it bent, and he fell out of the race. Look at this, Verstappen having a real look on the inside of Wurz, but couldn't do it, doing a super bit of driving there. Now this is where some of the cars that might have had a bit more downforce because of the tire problems at the beginning of the race trying to generate heat. And of course the extra downforce will help these cars in the wet.
So we're at 54 laps, 15 to go here in the Grand Prix of Canada. Michael Schumacher with a 24-second lead. See one of the Williams off. Jenson Button. Button running in 14th position. The Schumacher from Barrichello, Fisichella, and Mika Hakkinen. Laps to go with Michael Schumacher in front of the Canadian Grand Prix tonight. Hector Camacho Jr. leads the card of a Father's Day special Sunday night fights. Sons and daughters of boxing legends on a special card that's tonight on Fox Sports at 8 p.m. your local time. Show you what happened a minute ago to Jacques Villeneuve.
Jack coming into the right and left at the back, and he look at that piece of car control as he gets it back. Very, very lucky. I've never seen anybody get quite so sideways both ways and get it back on the road. But the conditions are atrocious as we see Eddie Irvine slip sliding around trying to get some traction. They got 800 horsepower. They weigh 1,300 pounds. Can you imagine trying to keep that lot under control? He almost didn't there. Look at side by side. Verstappen having a look at Wirtz. Is he going to do it this time? Yes, he does go by. Wirtz having an outstanding drive this afternoon. My goodness, did he need it, because the skids are under him at Benetton if he doesn't.
And how about Verstappen up in the points? That's 6th place right there.
Michael Schumacher dropped 2 seconds on that lap from his quickest lap of the rain by anybody. Dropped back 2 seconds, so he probably had a moment himself somewhere. Interesting to note, though, that in fact the Jenson Button has been lapping within a second of the leading group for the last 10 minutes or so, doing some wonderful times in those wet conditions.
Well, let's have a look at the constructors team by team here at 12 laps to go. Tough day for McLaren. Hakkinen 4th, and Coulthard, after that penalty stop, is 9th. Ferrari, of course, 1-2. Schumacher has led most of this race, surrendering to Barrichello when he made his pit stop. Frentzen is out of the race. Jarno Trulli in 5th. Eddie Irvine had to start from the pit lane with problems. Johnny Herbert has retired for Jaguar. Both of the Williams still running. Ralf Schumacher up in 8th. And a great day for Benetton with Fisichella in 3rd and Wirtz now in 7th. Prost, their misfortunes continue. Both cars out. Pedro Diniz 12th. The only Sauber left running. Verstappen up in the points for Arrows. Minardi with Genet and Mazzacani both still running. And BAR with Jacques Villeneuve, who started the day 3rd, now 10th, and Zonta 11th. There's Jacques.
There's some real trains out there of traffic. Very, very unfortunate. There we go. The Minardi pulls over to let Coulthard by.
Coulthard and Villeneuve running 9th and 10th.
David not actually impressing very much in the rain here this afternoon. But I think after such a buzz he had, looking down the inside goes Jacques. Can't make it. We all talked about Jacques running a low downforce as we run with Jacques. Whoa, look at him trying to get that power down.
How about no downforce?
He's doing a wonderful job in the wet, though. Brilliant job in the wet.
Must be all that go-kart and snowmobile experience. He's really tossing that car around.
But to me, he's one of those drivers with probably the best car control in the world, along with the Schumacher.
Now you saw the car there just lurched to the right as it shifted.
This is the hairpin where they're braking from probably 180 miles in the wet. Look at David slip out wide, and out went Jacques as well. He went out wide, and he thought he was going to capitalize on David's error.
They are 9th and 10th, just 1.7 seconds back of Ralf Schumacher.
Well, Michael Schumacher's backed off a lot. He's been lapping some 2 seconds or 1.5 to 2 seconds slower than Barrichello at this stage of the race. Of course, there's not many laps to go. Michael has a 20-second barrier to Barrichello and a further 20 onto Fisichella. So he's going to play it very cool, because this man wants to win the world title for Ferrari.
And Rubens could catch him up by race end if the present differential between them continues, but catching him up is only one thing. Back to the first of the McLarens from Schumacher, you see 53 seconds and a minute 15 back to Coulthard. Let's join Peter Windsor with 10 laps to go.
Thanks very much, Mike. Heinz, very unlucky. But not the first brake problem you've had here in Canada.
Yes, but certainly this one is a different one. Nothing to do with the material. We had pressure loss on the rear system, and don't know how this problem has caused.
Great shame, because you love these conditions that we're seeing now, eh?
Yeah, it wouldn't be too bad. At least I would have a chance to fight in the points, and I wanted to be in the points here. Montreal wasn't good to me this time either, so what can I do?
You've been to Indianapolis. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great track. It's a different track from all the others we have been so far, especially because we have a very long straight. I think overtaking should be possible, but we have as well a sophisticated infield with a lot of corners, and that makes the compromise difficult, really. I think if we have to run a couple pounds of downforce there, I mean like medium downforce, we have a very long straight, and overtaking should be very easy and possible from the turf.
Thank you very much, Heinz. Back to you.
Look at Jos Verstappen. He is really putting the pressure to Jarno Trulli for 5th place.
He's been driving incredibly well this weekend. He was very, very quick in all the practice sessions, right up there, and of course until qualifying where he actually stumped it in the wall. But he's been right up there all weekend doing a superb job. Some drivers just have it in the wet and others don't. And he's just having a blast. He's having a great time. And if the car's right for you, what you don't want is you don't want a car that's going to understeer all the way through every corner. If you can get that tail just to slide a little bit, and it really depends just how lucky you are when it goes from dry to wet as to how your car's set up. Is he going to look down the inside?
Really pressuring Trulli.
Yes, he is, down the inside. Now, you mustn't lock it up because he's in more water than Trulli. Super bit of driving. Super by Verstappen.
That moves him up to 5th. Well back of Mika Hakkinen. So now it's Trulli who's going to have to fend off Alex Wurz and Ralf Schumacher.
Let's look at it again. This is where we've seen a lot of overtaking done today. Down the inside, but it's much wetter there, and you have to be so careful as you come off the brakes that you don't just snap the back out as you turn. Excellent.
Verstappen looking to score his first points of the season. Arrow's only point this year was gained by De La Rosa in Australia. 9 laps to go in the Canadian Grand Prix. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Montreal, and look at this battle for 6th on back. Jarno Trulli, Alex Wurz, Ralf Schumacher, and David Coulthard. Ahead of limping Eddie Irvine. Michael Schumacher has led all but 9 laps thus far today. He handed the lead over to Rubens Barrichello at his first pit stop. 16 of the 22 starters remain. Those sidelined include Johnny Herbert, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Nick Heidfeld, Jean Alesi, Mika Salo, and Pedro de la Rosa.
Eddie Irvine being very gentle as he pulls over to let this group go by. Look at the visibility.
I would if I could.
Yeah, well, don't look at it. You've got no visibility. Can't quite see why David Coulthard isn't trying a bit harder against Ralf. Ralf did go out a bit wide just now at turn 1 and 2. But, of course, you know, looking at it and then doing it are two different things.
Well, there's a point at the head of that queue. Jarno Trulli, the yellow car, in 6th place in the Jordan.
Just watch here how he goes up. A bit wide. No, nobody's done it this time.
7 laps to go.
It's so amazing. I'm sitting here almost, I can feel what they're feeling. Like my whole body is shaking with the tension of driving in the rain. It's quite uncanny.
Mentioned earlier today, Jacques Lafitte won the Volkswagen Turbo Cup Celebrity Professional Race. They also had Ferrari Challenge, and yesterday Atlantics and Formula Fords. A big day in the motorsports world. 24 Hours of Le Mans just concluded just before we went on the air.
Yes, slightly drier conditions than these, I have to say. Great to see all Audi's efforts coming in 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Superb. Great, and obviously in the GT class we saw the Dodge Vipers 1st and 2nd, and then the Corvettes coming in 3rd and 4th. Great stuff.
Well, Jacques wrestling with getting the power down. He is in 10th place. That's David Coulthard just ahead. For more on Villeneuve, running here in his home Grand Prix, here's Peter.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, bad luck for Jacques Villeneuve. He actually came in on the same lap as Giancarlo Fisichella for his scheduled pit stop, and he did not decide to go onto wets, unlike Fisichella. He did, however, make that decision the following lap. He came in, the team weren't quite ready for him. He went onto wets. It was a long stop, so he's got 2 pit stops to Fisichella's 1, and it was that long stop. So great calling there by the Benetton team.
Well, that's why Fizzy's in 3rd, and Jacques there labors back in 10th at the end of this train. That includes 5 cars: Trulli, Wurz, Ralf Schumacher, and Coulthard. Then Villeneuve. Michael Schumacher aims to be King of Canada, should he win this. And you see Jacques struggling with braking as well as the power.
Zonta actually, but he looks so similar. You can't see so well in the wet, but Zonta getting out terribly wide. Once he gets in that deep stuff, you have had it. You just aquaplane off. Thank goodness for those kitty litter traps.
Well, we saw Marc Gené off as well. Schumacher would move ahead of Nelson Piquet should he win today. Jackie Ickx, Jackie Stewart, Alan Jones, Ayrton Senna, the other multiple winners in the Canadian Grand Prix.
Oh, look how wide he went round there. That was a really wide line. Mika Häkkinen steering the wide line as well. Probably found there's a bit more traction there. If you can get it out wide to start with, it means that you can then point the car straighter and get on the power early, and therefore the only way to get the power down is to be going straight. You don't get it down when you're sideways, not in the wet.
No, it really does change the conventional wisdom about taking the widest radius through the corner, because what you want to do is get your turning done as early as possible.
Get it done, get the car pointed straight, and then get on it. Michael Schumacher's dropping back quite a lot to go. With 5 laps to go, he's only 9.8 seconds ahead of Barrichello, 32 seconds ahead of Fisichella, and I would say it's highly unlikely that Ferrari would retain Barrichello after this race if he was to go by Michael Schumacher at this stage. So Michael's just playing a very cool race, and it's a lot of teamwork coming into it.
This still remains a very intriguing battle. Trulli, Wirtz, Schumacher, that's Ralph, Coulthard, Villeneuve. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Ooh, look at them, having a look down the inside of Trulli. Be nice for Wirtz to get a point at this stage, seeing as Fisichella's going to get some points, and Wirtz needs a good result. We've seen him make a few errors in the past. Had one of his greatest races in his early year, and everybody thought this is another future world champion. Look at him going out wide there, wants to see if he can get down the inside, but no. Trulli keeps that line well and truly.
Looks like speedboat racing from the helicopter shot in the adjacent lagoon.
No tail comes out on Villeneuve's car as they slide out through the turn.
Fisichella running third. He's always been on the podium here in Canada, every one of his finishes. But as Peter pointed out, brilliant pit strategy combined with fortuitous timing and put him up into third. Here's Jacques having a look.
Good look, Jacques.
Wow.
He came down inside, and my goodness me, it must have been mighty close.
Yep.
4 laps. A time pity to stop at that point with 4 laps to go.
Gené.
Oh. Looks like, is that a Benetton off as well there?
Yes.
Ooh, Gené getting it all crossed up, getting on the kitty litter. Come on, keep your foot on it, guy. Keep that power going. Look, there's Ralf Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, both spun. I think I'm right saying that.
Yes, and Jacques is out.
Yeah, that's at turn 1. No, it's at the casino hairpin, I beg your pardon.
Is there nose damage to Villeneuve's car? We'll have to look for another angle.
How distressing. Look at, here we go. That's Ralf going down the inside. No, it isn't. It was Jacques going down the inside. He takes out Ralf at that point of the race. You just lock it up in those conditions. Here we go. No wonder he couldn't see what he was doing. Spray goes down, he locks it up straight across the road. Bang! Oh, Ralf, I hope his left leg's all right. Remember, he's already got 22 stitches in his left leg.
Well, Jacques had got past David under braking and then drove it straight into Ralf Schumacher and out of the race.
Well, Ralph's walking all right. That's a relief. But you don't need that sort of knock. Some debris on the track. Boy, they cleared that up quickly.
Wouldn't want to leave that truck there. As they, crane as they try to lift off. I guess that's Ralph's car. So this will be Villeneuve's second non-finish in a row and third of the year. I'm sorry, third in his trips to Canada.
And of course, people look at him very seriously at Jacques for the future. A lot of discontent at BAR. So who knows where he's going. A little whisper, he might well have already signed for Benetton. For the Renault team, of course, he needs that sort of power, that sort of engine underneath him. They're running their new engine at the end of this season for the season of 2002. Long way off, but the cars still run well here, as you can see by Fisichella's run.
Well, that accident, okay, incident, I'm not sure how accidental it was. That will move Ricardo Zonta up to 9th and Pedro Diniz to 10th, Jenson Button to 11th. Again, it's been 13 races since the fastest qualifier won a Grand Prix. So Schumacher is currently 6 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello in second. Let's check down with Peter.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm in the Ferrari garage, and right here, next to Rubens Mechanics, you've really got to feel the excitement. It's fantastic. He's driven beautifully in the wet and the dry. Of course, Michael is just protecting his lead there, and there's nothing Rubens is going to do in that area, but you've got to hand it to Rubens. Every time it rains, this guy gets out and he shows his talent.
And I believe the talent in the rain shows the inherent talent that man has naturally. People that drive well in the wet have so much more feel for cars than those that don't drive well in the wet.
We just had a Minardi come past, start and finish, sounding very much like 4th of July fireworks. Only 2 laps to go, and Schumacher's lead now at 5.2 seconds. And Barrichello will be able to see that rooster tail ahead on the long straightaway.
He's lapping about a second a lap quicker than Michael, but as Peter mentioned, there is no real panic for Michael to get too excited about this. Jenson Button there in the Williams. Remember that the other Williams is out.
Got Jenson up to 11. Stay with us following the checkered flag for the trophy presentation, the champagne shower, and the conference with the podium finishers. Right now, Schumacher, Barrichello, Fisichella. And only 3 points for McLaren today, with Mika Hakkinen running in 4th. Ferrari could score 16 maximum points and really extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship. Another spin at Casino. One driver struggles to get going there after a twirl.
A good time to mention is Jenson Button right there, right up behind Rubens Barrichello, who in fact has backed off a bit himself. He realizes that although he's made his shot, oh look, here we go, there's David Coulthard off and Fisichella. Is David going to get away first and get a point? Or was it Mika Hakkinen? I apologize, it was Mika Hakkinen that was involved with Fisichella. I thought it was David from way behind getting involved. But
I thought it could have been David and Wirtz, but
oh, here we go again.
It is David and Wirtz.
Oh, there's debris on the track too.
Coulthard trying to come through Wirtz for 7th place. And we're on the last lap. Schumacher trying to win his 5th of the year and 40th of his Formula One career. There's Barrichello.
And Ferrari, the only team to score a point in every race this season. Phenomenal record for Ferrari. They used to have such a dismal record in years gone by, and here they are, brilliant.
Now here's Fisichella and Mika Hakkinen. They're just a 1.5 seconds apart on this final circuit. Rubens, Michael Schumacher coming for his 40th career victory. Will move him 1 shy of Ayrton Senna on the all-time list, and 11 behind Prost.
So anybody out there in these conditions today that hasn't had an error, made a mistake and finishes this race deserves a medal. And I think Barrichello and Verstappen above all deserve some real credit for the incredible way they've driven in these conditions.
Wirtz comes out of the pits after a stop following contact with Coulthard. Here comes Michael Schumacher with Rubens Barrichello. All the Ferrari mechanics are standing atop the pit fence. Final complex, nose to tail. Ferrari 1-2 in Canada.
Brilliant driving by anybody that finished, you have to say it. Superb. 22 seconds behind. We hope we'll see Fisichella.
Benetton, their crew rushes the pit wall and gives a big wave to Fisichella. You see them on the right of your screen, and he'll be on the podium as well. Mika Hakkinen is 4th. Jos Verstappen and Jarno Trulli will pick up the remaining points, and we'll be right back to a soggy Montreal after this. The Grand Prix of Canada on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota, making it happen every day. Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher come into park below the podium in a tremendous wet weather triumph for Ferrari.
A lot of enthusiasm from those mechanics. They look so happy for Barry Keller, who's obviously had a very disappointing weekend up till right at the end there when he's right up on Michael Schumacher. Superb bit of driving by both those guys.
And Fisichella on the podium once again here in Canada, where he's had tremendous luck, and Benetton benefiting from a single stop strategy that came just as the rains came, so they did not have to return to the pits for wet weather tires. Well, Ferrari scores maximum points today, with Michael Schumacher extending his lead in the World Championship now to 22 points over David Coulthard, who scored none today. Mika Hakkinen moves to within 2 of Coulthard, then Barrichello and Fisichella, who scored 6 and 4 today respectively. And Ferrari jumps out to 18 points over McLaren Mercedes, who got only Hakkinen's points, while Ferrari got a maximum of 16 today. Benetton moves up, Williams, Jordan, and BAR. Michael going over to congratulate his mechanics, as is Rubens.
Ferrari here.